Yo, what's good, everybody? We're going to do something a little bit different today. I'm going to have a tier list in this video, but it's not going to be just straight up meta tier list, okay? We've seen enough of those, and it's not going to be straight up budget tier list either. It's going to be a combination of those, and it's really going to be basically a bang for your buck tier list. And this is geared towards people who are looking to get a new deck or kind of looking to get into the TCG right around now, which is December 2023, and you're wondering, what should I buy? You know, there's a ton of different decks out there, 100 plus decks that you can choose from. You know, what will not be a waste of your money. So that's what this tier list is going to do. It's going to go through all of the decks that are within range of being in the meta and kind of distributing those based on how much bang for your buck you can get if you were to go out and purchase the whole thing. Okay, so there's going to be a few criteria that affect which category we're going to be in. So it's going to be the quality of the deck, the likelihood that the deck will get cheaper very soon. Like, I don't want you to go buy an expensive deck that's expected to be reprinted tomorrow and you'll just waste all of your money. There's going to be also kind of how much of the deck is reusable into a new deck as well. You know, if you were to buy a deck that's all engine and zero non-engine, then like if you wanted to try something else, you have to go buy another whole 40 cards. Whereas if you build a deck that's half hand traps, then that's going to be a little bit better value for you, because now next time you want to try a deck, you already have a whole bunch of cards that might be in there. Okay, so we're going to keep all those things in mind when going through this bang for your buck tier list, and yeah, we're going to see how it goes. This is my first time trying to do one of these, so I hope you guys enjoy. Let's jump on over. So our categories today are best value up at the top. Number 2 is going to be really good, but it'll cost you. And this kind of gets me into, I want to talk to you guys about, or make sure you recognize that, people are going to have different budget ranges. And if bang for your buck, like if you want to win and are willing to pay for it, that's what's going to go in this tier, basically. Next one is going to be average, which is like a kind of generic spot for things that don't really match anything else. Number 4 here is cheap, but kind of sucks. So, it's not going to cost you much, but you're not going to do very well at events. I'll be honest with you on those. And then the last section is overhyped and you're paying for it. So these are expensive decks that are not really good. Like, these are similar price to the top tier decks and not as good. So yeah, that's going to be kind of like the least value. Decks also in here are going to be those that are like not reprinted yet and are kind of just expensive because of that. So we're going to go ahead, let's go through it and see how we do on these. And I'm actually looking through some of these. I don't actually know what all of these are. But I think just this one here, I have no idea what this is. So let me know in the comments below what the heck this card is here between Mikanko and Phantom Knight, because I really have no idea, and I'm going to drag that down to the bottom. Alright, so let's go ahead and start with ABC. Okay, so ABC is interesting. I'm going to consider the adventure package in there, and that's going to be fine because it's pretty cheap nowadays. It got all reprinted in the Megatins, right? Plus the Battles of Legend sets. But ABC is not really doing anything right now. And I'm pretty sure it's cheap, but it's not that great. I would put this between average and cheap, but kind of sucks. And honestly, I think it's going to go right here for now, and we'll see what the rest of the tier list shapes out to be, and we can reconsider. But I kind of like ABC, but it's weak to a lot of the meta trends right now, like Bestials and just kind of general hand traps. Nibiru is kind of rough unless you open adventure package, so we're going to chuck that down into here. Cheap, but kind of sucks. Altergeist is going to be right there next to it. Altergeist is also cheap, but kind of sucks. It's actually cheaper than ABC, that's for sure, especially now that Pot of Prosperity is reprinted and you can get it for like $1 or $2 per copy. There's nothing in this deck that costs any kind of money, so this is like a dirt cheap deck that you can kind of just pick up for like $30 probably total. Branded is, I actually do think it's good value. I think you can get the entire branded deck, like just pure branded, probably for around $100. I think, well, if you only play one Quem, that's 30 of your dollars, but I can't really think of anything else. Maybe one Guardian Chimera is another $20, and then everything else is like fairly cheap. So I think I'm gonna put this in average, just because I think for the same price you can get a little bit better decks. But I do like branded as a kind of budget option these days. But there are still some expensive pieces and pieces that, if they get reprinted, will drop very low in price, like Quem and Guardian Chimera. Okay, this next deck, what is this? Is this like, oh, this is the Red Dragon Archfiend. This is the structure deck stuff. This is also cheap and kind of sucks. I assume this is what this is. The Resonators. Am I right? I'm trying to see if there's another Resonator thing in here. If this is Resonators, this is where it goes. Cheap but kind of sucks. Yeah, it's a structure deck. It's not hyped. It's not its own deck. You kind of have to mix it with Dragon Link and Horus stuff, and that's all expensive. But just as a standalone piece, this one is going to go here. Okay, Centurion. This one is going to be an overhyped and you're paying for it. This is like the newest set that came out. What is it? Valiant Smashers, right? Or am I wrong on that? What do we have here? Yep, Valiant. Yeah, this is in the newest set, Valiant Smashers, and because it's the newest thing, it's all single print cards and it's all hyped. And it could even be getting more supports coming in the next main set, Phantom Nightmare. I'm not sure, but they usually do support the side sets in the main sets, you know, with 1 or 2 cards. So people are going to be hyped for that, and they're going to be buying these cards up big time. And I think that's where this goes. Right now, the Centurion deck is not that great, to be honest. So I think it's going to go down here. Okay, next, the Phantom... the Phantom Beast cards, the Chimera Fusion stuff. This one is going to be up in best value for me. I'm pretty sure that you can get this whole deck for about $100, and most of it is hand traps and non-engine. All the branded stuff is super cheap. The expensive parts are going to be 2 copies of Guardian Chimera, which are $20 a piece, plus 2 copies of Chimera King of Phantom Beasts at $10 a piece. So that's $60 there for those 4 cards, but everything else is like essentially free. So I think this deck goes in best value. There's a lot of flexibility with this deck. There's a lot of different routes you can take, and therefore that kind of fits the best value you know, criteria for me, is that it's flexible, plays a lot of non-engine, it has a cheap engine, and it's like pretty safe format to format. So I think the Chimera Fusion deck is going to be up here. Dark World, I don't think there's any expensive parts except for the extra deck. Like if you're playing SP, like all of these decks can play SP, and all of these could have a $100 baseline, but you know, generally Dark World is very cheap. I don't think there's very much that you have to pay for these days, but it also sucks. Dark World is not a great deck, especially now in like a mega hand trap format where, you know, if you get hit with a Bestial or hit with a Nib, then you might be in some trouble. So we're going to go ahead and put Dark World here in cheap but kind of sucks. Dynamorphia. It's between best value and cheap but kind of sucks here as well, because if you're going to play a trap deck, I think there's better value trap decks to play, and I'm going to put this in average. I think Dynamorphia is a little bit better than the decks down here. Like, I don't want to put it on the same level as Altergeist. I do think Dynamorphia is as good as Altergeist or better, and at the same price. So I do like Dynamorphia as a bang for your buck option. Dinos is also going to be up here. I do like dinos. It's never really like a dead deck in a format. Like there's always some kind of potential for it. There's always flexibility and non-engine you can play in this. And it's only going to get better if ban list help comes with Miscellaneousaurus and Pankratops as well. So I do kind of like Dino as a decent average bang for your buck option. Okay, Dragon Link. Let me think about this a little bit. I think Dragon Link is pretty safe. It's pretty safe as a deck you can pick up and kind of just keep playing. There is some risk of ban list stuff though. So I don't know. Like the expensive part is going to be the Lubellions and the Druis Worms. I don't know. I think to play this deck well... Oh, you also need like Dispatter. Yeah, this deck is going to go in really good, but it'll cost you. Like it's a bit more on the expensive side. I would estimate probably around $200 to $250 to complete a whole Dragon Link deck. So if that's what kind of budget you're looking at, then that's fine. But when it comes to like the typical, we're trying to keep it cheap and we're trying to still compete, Dragon Link, you can definitely compete for cheaper. Okay, Drytron is going to be in the cheap but kind of sucks section as well, or the overhyped in your, like, it's not hyped, so it's not in that category. So I would put it in cheap but kind of sucks. The expensive parts are still Drytron Nova, which has never been reprinted, and then just all the generic extra deck stuff. You know, and that's not too bad. That's not too bad. Novas are, I would guess, like $10-15 a piece. But any reprint will knock that down to like $1 a piece. And then just the generic extra deck things. But you know, Drytron's not too bad. But I think it's on the same level as like same competitive level as like Dark World or like ABC even. Eldritch, I mean, it's also cheap. It just goes along with like Altergeist. It's just another trap deck that nobody is playing, and I don't think it's that great. So we're gonna put it down here. Evil Eye is gonna go right next to it. It's just kind of all in the same category here. Where yes, these decks are easily within budget, but you can do better with that same money. So we're gonna put Evil Eye down here as well. This is Exosister. I think Exosister is gonna be up in best value. The entire deck is reprinted and cheap except for Magnifica, which is about $15 to $20 a piece, and you're going to need one or two of those. But besides that, there's nothing over $5 a card in there. You know, even the extra deck doesn't need SP. You can just go basically pure Exosister extra deck, and then it's all reprinted in the Megatins, the extra deck, the main deck stuff. Prosperities are reprinted, Shifters are reprinted, all the hand traps, all the kind of regular board breaker spells, whatever you want to play. There's not an expensive thing in here besides Magnifica at $15 a piece. So I do consider Exosister best value when it comes to bang for your buck decks. Fluanderies is right next to it as well. Fluanderies, just like Exosister, it's all reprinted now. There's nothing expensive about Fluanderies that I can think of. Yeah, all the pots, all the birds are reprinted. The spell cards are all reprinted. I don't think there's anything expensive. Maybe Apex Avian. I don't know how much that is. That might be the most expensive deck or card now because it hasn't had a reprint in a while. I don't think. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, Fluanderies and Exosister, these shifter decks are really good value right now. Punk Gold Pride. This one is gonna be, I'm gonna put it down here. Like, well, how much is it really? No, it's cheap. It is cheap. I would say it's cheap. It's probably $100 for the whole core, and I would say that's cheap, but kind of sucks. I don't think it's overhyped. You know, like the Centurion stuff right now. But yeah, Gold Pride Punk is not really doing anything. You know, it's like an interesting option. I'm trying to think if you even need expensive synchros. You don't need Chaos Angel, you don't need Dispatter for this deck, so we're going to go and put it here. Heroes, baby. If there's an overhyped deck, you know, if there's a deck that goes into overhyped and you're paying for it, it's Heroes. Like, so much hero hype, so many people buying up the hero stuff. Wake Up Your Elemental Hero. There's probably, I don't really know what's, oh, the new, like, Phoenix card. what is it? The the new Flame Wingman card, I mean. I'm sure there's hero stuff that's not reprinted that's probably $30 a pop just because it says hero on it, and that is pretty much the definition of overhyped and you're paying for it. Like, it's not an excellent deck. Like, it doesn't go up here and really good, but it'll cost you. So it's going to go down here. Infernoble, this one is going to go in really good, but it'll cost you. And you know, you kind of need SP to play this deck well. Unfortunately, I think most of the main deck is fairly cheap, to be honest. So, you know, you're really just looking at the extra deck, the SP Little Knights, and the Heritage of the Chalices. Those are probably $10 to $15 a piece nowadays. But if you're playing it with the Sinful Spoil stuff, yeah, that's expensive. That's like top of the meta, brand new stuff, and all of that is going to go in really good, but it'll cost you. And let's go ahead and jump ahead to Rescue Ace, because speaking of the Sinful Spoils cards and needing it to play the deck, yeah, Rescue Ace is also going to go in really good, but it'll cost you. Arguably the best deck of the meta, maybe top 3, top 5 for sure. But yeah, it's expensive. Like 3 Hydrants at $50 a piece, 3 Wanteds now at like $90 to $100 a piece as of today when I checked. So that's absolutely nuts and very expensive. And you're going to be paying for the top tier deck, you know. And, you know, that could be considered bang for your buck. Like, you're spending money and you're winning tournaments. Like, so, but it's kind of, you know, geared towards the budget players. Rescue Ace is probably not in your budget. Kashtira. So Kashtira is interesting because I think this is in the best value section. And the reason being is that the entire deck is basically generic cards. It's all hand traps. It's all generic spells. And the most expensive part is Kashtira Fenrir, which can literally be played in any other deck that you want to invest in. So basically, you are buying 40 non-engine cards and having a deck out of it. And to me, that is really good value. So even though it's a bit expensive, in terms of like, there's quite a few $10 cards in there. I think, yeah, like the Kashtira Planet, the Fenrirs, those cards can be played in other decks. And then we have the extra deck. We have Big Eye, which is probably $6, $10 a piece, somewhere in there. But overall, I think you're going to be paying $100 to $150 for this deck, but I think there's going to be a lot of overlap with a lot of other decks that you might want to play. So I do consider Kashtira to be up here in best value. Labyrinth. I'm not really sure. You know what? I'll be totally honest. I don't know what the Labyrinth cards cost nowadays because I know a lot have been reprinted. I do also know that it plays Chaos Angel, which is expensive. It's like $70, but it's not necessary. I'm going to put this card in average when it comes to average bang for your buck. Like, it's a bit expensive, but it's also a little bit better than a lot of these other decks. So therefore, I'm going to put it here in average in terms of bang for your buck value. Manadium is going to go up here in really good, but it'll cost you. There's a lot of cards in Manadium that you're going to need to pick up. All of the planets. You need to play all the planets. The Kashtira planet, the Manadium planet, the Tier planet. And then we also have Dispatter in the extra. We might have Chaos Angel in the extra. We have a lot of different extra deck pieces that are going to be a little bit expensive. So I do think Manadium deserves to go up here. It's not necessarily a budget-friendly deck, but it is a really good deck. So if you were to invest in it, you would get a lot of value out of it. Marincess is going to go... I'm going to put Marincess in average. I am a little bit biased. I used to play Marincess myself, and because Marincess is so many non-engine cards, it's so many hand traps. You know, if you were to buy this deck, I think you would get a lot of reuse out of the cards that you're picking up. Unfortunately, like, the entire extra deck is archetype specific, so you're not going to be getting any generic extra deck cards to be able to use for other stuff. But also the deck is very cheap. I think the most expensive card is Marincess Dive, the spell card. It's a 2 of. It's like $5 a piece, I think. But everything else is like dirt cheap. And I think Marincess is kind of a sneaky, like, quality deck right now. Math Mech is kind of in the same place, I think. I don't think there's any particularly expensive parts of Math Mech, but, you know, it's arguably in cheap, but kind of sucks. I'm a little bit biased. I think Marincess is better than that, and we're going to put it here. And then while we're at it, we'll hit the last Cyberse deck, is Salamangreat. I think it's going to go right next to Marincess. I do think it's a little bit better than Marincess, but it's also more expensive. Actually, let me look up. What is Salamangreat of Fire? Is this still a $30 card? No, okay. Alright, so yeah, if this was still 30 bucks, then this is gonna go in overhyped, but oh wow, Raging Phoenix is $30. 12, yep, okay, well, as of now, Raging Phoenix is 30 bucks. So that kind of forces it down into here, overhyped, and you're paying for it. You do need 2 Raging Phoenixes, you do need Salamangreat of Fires, and then, you know, those are the only expensive cards in the deck. So it's arguably average. You know, the whole deck will cost you about $150 without SP. You still do need access code, which is also expensive, right? Yeah, access code is at least $25. I think I'm gonna have to put it down here in overhyped, and you're paying for it. I think you could do, you could beat Salamangreat with these decks that cost a lot less. Mikanko, I don't know, like average. It's not cheap, right? But is it good enough to kind of go into the other categories? I don't know. Like Mikanko, you need 3 Ohimes at $14 a piece, and then everything else is fairly cheap. I don't really know what else the deck plays. Like, I don't know the whole deck list myself, so I'm gonna put it here in average. Like, I don't really know where this should go. Phantom Knights. So there's pure Phantom Knights and there's Phantom Knights with Horus. If you're trying to play the best version of Phantom Knight and like the most competitive version, you have to play it with the Horus cards, and those are overhyped, or at least expensive. Like, you're paying for a meta engine and not getting a meta deck out of it, and I think that's kind of what defines this bottom category. Plunder Patrol, baby. This is a Plunder Patrol channel, and Plunder Patrol is best value. And that's because the whole deck, you can get the entire Plunder deck for $50. And I think it's low-key, like, really good. But you also have to be really good at it. So if you're going to get this deck, you need to learn how to play it really well, and you'll be able to compete. But if you're going to pick up this deck for 50 bucks and not practice and not learn the deck really well, then it's not going to be good value for you, because it's just going to be a little bit of a waste. So it kind of depends how much effort you're putting in. It's either best value because it's very cheap and also very good in my opinion, or it's going to be cheap and kind of sucks if you don't get good at it. And you could probably say the same thing about a lot of these cheap but kind of sucks decks. If I was an ABC channel, ABC would probably be up here in best value. You know, if I was a Punk Gold Pride enthusiast, it would probably be up here. But I am a Plunder Patrol enthusiast, and that one is going to go in best value for me. Pearly is going to be really good, but it'll cost you. Like, there's still a lot of cards that are not reprinted in this deck. There's still a lot of variation in what we could be seeing coming out in reprints, and a lot of variation with what the non-engine is. And you kind of do need an SP in this deck as well. And some of the like main deck, the My Friend Pearlies, the Pretty Memories are going to be expensive. The Pearly itself is going to be expensive. So you're paying for a meta deck. And that's what you're going to get out of it. So it's going to go up here. Rika. I wouldn't call Rika budget, but it's not meta either, and it's not meta prices either. I think Rika goes here in average. Runix is going to be, I don't know, I can't just do like Runix Stun, like that's going to go cheap but kind of sucks. But like if you I'll talk about Sprite separately in a little bit, and we can talk about Runic then, but as a pure Runic deck, cheap but kind of sucks is where that's going to go. Scareclaw. I'm biased as well. I'm a Scareclaw player, like a pure Scareclaw player, not Manatium, and I like Scareclaw a lot. And, I think it might be up here in best value. I think I don't think it's as good as those decks up there. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it down here. Cheap but kind of sucks, unfortunately, even though I am a fan. Striker, same thing, guys. You know, I like Striker, and I just put out a deck profile for that on my channel. But let's be honest, it goes down here. But with Triple Tactics Thrust, it's not cheap, but also kind of sucks. So I don't have that either. That's going to be like an overhyped and you're paying for it. But that's literally only because of the non-engine. So yeah, I'll put it here. Assume there's no Thrust. It's cheap, but kind of sucks. Sprite. I kind of like Sprite, but I think it's average. I don't think it's awesome value. Like, you're still paying for Sprint, you're still paying for all the non-engine Thrust talents. You might be playing Runic. Sprite Blue's still a little expensive. You know, I do think it's actually really good value. We're going to put it up here in best value right now. The deck is mostly reprinted, even though it's not reprinted. Like, Sprite Blue is... let me see, Sprite Blue, those are gotta be like 10 bucks a piece right now. Oh wow, they're 20s. How much is the ulti? Sprite Blue, I thought the ulti was 20. The ulti is also 20. Wow, that's wild. Buy the ultis. But yeah, 3 Sprite Blues, that's gonna be 60 bucks. Sprite Sprint, that's gonna be another 10 to 15, that's another 15 bucks, that's 75. Yeah, this is gonna be, I don't know, I would say it's average. Like, it's not cheap, but it's also good, but it's not top tier meta good. So we're gonna put it here in average. Next to Rika, I think this is an appropriate place. Sword Soul. Sword Soul is really good value, I think, right now. Because it's all reprinted, even the Baron de Fleur, which is $2 now. That's amazing. We're living in a world where Baron is $2. But there's nothing else that's that expensive they have to play in this deck. Like, if you don't have SP or don't have Typhon, that's okay. Like, you can still get by just fine. The how much are the emergencies right now? Those have been going up a little bit. Let's see. Okay, emergencies are up to like 750, so you're paying 20 bucks for that. And then Mo Yi is probably also, what, $7 a piece? Yeah, I'm paying another $20 for that. But besides that, everything else is very cheap and very reprinted. And I think Sword Soul is kind of like on a resurgence back up. So I do like Sword Soul in the value category. Adventure Synchron is, right now it's overhyped and you're paying for it. Like, this deck is doing nothing and you still have to buy Revolution Synchrons and other weird Synchron cards that you won't be able to reuse in any other deck. So yeah, Revs are 20 bucks a piece right now, and it's just not a good deck and it's not good value. So we're gonna put that down here. Tier, this is a really good, but it'll cost you. All the planets, all the Fenrirs, all of the tier caches, plus all of the random extra deck stuff that's value, like Sprite Sprint, that all that stuff is kind of plays in and builds up this deck's price a lot. It's mostly the field spells though. So yeah, it's gonna go up here and really good, but it'll cost you. It's gonna be around the price of Manadium, I would expect, and we can put it right there. Traptrix is kind of nice. It has a structure deck, but I think it goes down here. It's around the same level as I would say as some of these other trap decks. I do like Traptrix a little bit more than some of the trap decks, to be honest, but yeah, I still think it's in the cheap but kind of sucks section. Unchained. Okay, so Unchained is pretty good value, and it's not that expensive. You know, the Abominations prisons are $20 a piece. Unchained Solar Rage, you need 2 of those. Those are $10 a piece. So this deck is around $150 to $200, and I think it's in the best value. I think it's the best value of the meta decks. That's how I would put it. So, you know, if you want to top a tournament, Unchained is the cheapest way to do it. And you know, and that's why I'm going to put it up in best value. Like, it's the best value at its price level. All right, so I'll put it in there. Vanquish Soul, I'm subject to this. It's in overhyped and you're paying for it. Like, this deck is full of expensive cards. Rock of the Vanquishers are 20 bucks. Raisins are 15 bucks a piece. And you have to buy 3 of those each. And, you know, plus all the other ultra rares. The whole deck is ultra rares. It's not reprinted. Yeah, this deck is expensive. For the money you're paying for Vanquish Soul, you could be getting a meta deck. Virtual World is like dirt cheap, but I don't think it really does anything. It's just going to go right in here with the cheap but kind of sucks section, along with the volcanic cards. The volcanic cards, I might even just drop it in overhyped and you're paying for. Like, is anything expensive in here, first of all? Volcanic. Let me just sort by volcanic here. Like, how much are the new guy? Oh, this is all cheap stuff. Yeah, I don't really know what goes into a volcanic deck, but we're going to put it in here in cheap but kind of sucks. Like, I'm pretty sure it's all very cheap stuff. Therion? Therion's not a real deck. So I'm not even going to rank it. Thunder Dragon, it's not even a real deck either. Like, what? What is this? Oh, this is the ritual deck, the Dogmatica ritual deck. Yeah, this isn't overhyped and you're paying for it. Like, Dogmatica Maximus is $30 a piece right now because of the new Fire King cards, and you need 2 of those for this deck. You know, the whole deck is probably $100. Oh, Lulu Walilis are $20 a piece. You need 2 of those as well. Yeah, this deck is overhyped. Like, for paying $100 to $150, you're getting a very low quality deck, and that's why this is going to go here. We already talked about dinos. I'm not going to rank this Evil Zor stuff. Machines, this is in cheap but kind of sucks as well. Like, I don't think a deck does anything. You know, you can get it for a low price, but you're not going to be winning anything. Cyber Dragon, going to keep it rolling with that. And then the Horus cards. In my personal opinion, Horus stuff is overhyped and you're paying for it. Like, I don't think Horus is that great. I think it's very glass cannon. Yeah, it can complement Tier, it can complement Phantom Knight, it can complement other random crap, Centurion, but it's all just so expensive, and all of those decks are kind of like worse than the meta, the top tier meta stuff, except for maybe Tier Horus, just because Tier carries so hard. So, you know, I think Tier without Horus is just better. But yeah, anything Horus is going to be overhyped and you're paying for it. I'm guessing this Inspector Border represents Stun. Not going to rank that. This is Punk. We already talked about Punk. It goes right next to Gold Pride. But I think Punk Kashtira is going to be a little bit better than Punk Gold Pride, but still, like, yeah, Kashtira is up here. Gold Pride is down here. You could play Punk with either of those, and it's just going to match whatever you pair it with. And then what is this? Like Springins with Sargus. Cheap but kind of sucks. That's fine. But yeah, and like I said, I don't know what this picture is. Someone can let me know in the comments below what the heck this picture is of. I do not recognize it. But that'll wrap it up for me today. And I think I'm pretty happy with this bang for your buck tier list. You know, and again, this is, you know, if you want to spend money on the game, what will you do the best with for the money? And recap, the best value cards or decks are the Chimera Fusion deck, Exosister and Fluanderies, and Kashtira are all very good value because they're all shifter decks. They all play a ton of non-engine or cheap engine. And like I said, for Kashtira, though it is a bit expensive, you can reuse those cards. And I'm not saying that Kashtira, the deck itself, is best value, but like, just because you can reuse the cards in any deck that you build in the future, that's what makes this such a good investment. So yeah, I do like Kashtira in the value section. Plunder Patrol is a little bit biased, but I think for $50, the $50 it will cost you to build this deck in its entirety, you can compete with some of these decks up here in average for sure, or these other decks in the best value section. Sword Soul has a little bit of a resurgence, and I do like it, and I think it's cheap now that Baron is like essentially free. You can build Sword Soul for next to nothing. And then Unchained, like I said, it is a bit expensive, but of the top tier decks, it will provide you the best value. It is the cheapest of those. Okay, so with that, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Hope you guys enjoyed this tier list. Let me know in the comments below. Do you agree or disagree with any of these rankings? And with that, we'll catch you in the next one. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you later.